In each class, there is a teenager who stands out from the team. Do you remember? Definitely in your class there was also such a white crow. It is difficult for this little man to live, he is bullied morally, bullied even physically. It is especially bitter when a weak girl becomes an outcast, unable to defend herself. Elena had poor health, from childhood she was tormented by asthma attacks. She spoke quietly, as if she was afraid that someone might pay attention to her words. It was always difficult for her to make friends and communicate with peers. She seemed to speak a different language. The situation worsened when the girl moved to the 7th grade. Classmates began to group according to their interests, and Elena was left out of her lot. At first, the girl was simply washed with bones. They called her strange, psycho loner, and then they began to call names in her face. Elena endured silently, lowered her head and was silent, and when she came home, she wept bitterly. She completely withdrew into herself, devoted her free time to books. After all, in them one could feel like a completely different person. Over time, the moral pressure grew into a physical one. Classmates began to allow themselves vile acts towards the girl. They spat in her hair and threw rounds of used chewing gum. They could come up and push or pick up the briefcase and throw it out the window. And once, classmate Dennis even hit her in the eye with his fist. Why do you ask? Yes, just to cheer up your friends. They just liked to mock the poor girl. Elena could not ask for protection even at home. Her father died a few years ago. Her mother drank herself from grief. The girl was brought up by an old grandmother who spent the last pennies on her, called a pension. The girl could not even imagine how she was telling her granny about the horror that she had to experience. Several months of group pressure broke Elena's psyche. The girl was depressed and she began to be tormented by thoughts of suicide. She had nightmares at night that made her scream in her sleep. And she also just wanted love and friendship, wanted care and understanding. Elena so wanted to make friends with at least someone. It was this desire that broke the girl. She was fixated on the fact that she needed a friend. She began to approach classmates and offer them her friendship. They just laughed at her and called her stupid. Elena came home and tried to cut her veins, but her grandmother, who arrived in time, prevented her. The girl was sent to a boarding school, where psychologists worked with her for several years. When Elena turned 18, she was recognized as an adequate person, and she became free to do whatever she wanted. First of all, she went to visit her grandmother, and then a cruel blow of fate awaited her. It turned out that her grandmother died a year ago, and her mother, meanwhile, sold the apartment and disappeared in an unknown direction. The girl lowered her hands, because she had absolutely no one to turn to. She just sat on a bench and sobbed, wringing her hands. The world was collapsing again, like a house of cards. They took everything from her, the evil teenagers who ruined her life. They will pay. I will do everything to make them feel my pain, thought the girl, clutching her skinny hand with her nails until she bled. Soon, a strange string of murders took place in the city. They began to find the bodies of young people who were united by the fact that they once studied in the same class. Every mutilated body was missing a limb. One had an arm cut off, another had a leg. The eyes of the last victim were gouged out. Elena was carrying something heavy in a black, impenetrable bag. I went into an abandoned house in which she lived recently. She threw the bag into a corner and wearily sat down right on the bare concrete. Today her dream will come true. A strange smile appeared on the girl's tired face. The eye in the corner was something covered with a dirty rag. The girl pulled off the rag and smiled happily at what she saw. From the male and female parts of the bodies, the strange doll was made in the likeness of a person, more like an unknown monster. Parts of the body were connected with anything. In some places they were fastened with threads, somewhere with wire. Elena took out a human hand that was missing for the doll from the bag and hooked it onto a wire to someone else's torso. It seems that it belonged to that boy who once at school hit the girl in the eye. But today the girls managed to get a treasure, a human heart. An unusual person, but a heart belonging to Elena's mother. True, for this I had to kill her. But it's not scary, she deserved it, the girl lovingly put in her chest.